is something called the word superiority effect. Has anybody ever heard of this, the word superiority effect? The word superiority effect. I might actually enter this. Actually, I type it up on here. Let me put the recorder up here. So in the word superiority effect, very simple experiment. You're looking at a screen, you're staring at a fixation point, and then after the fixation point comes up, they show you a letter. Actually, it's either a letter or a word. Let's make that capital. And then they basically ask you, after they show you this, they'll put a little symbol on it and say, identify the symbol where that, identify what symbol is on that screen. So it'll basically flash up with fixation point first, and then you'll either see the letter K, or you'll see, you'll see the letter K, or you'll see the whole stimulus of work, and then after that is up there, what's that sign called? Hashtag sign will come up and say, identify the letter. Now if there's only one letter up there, it would come up right under the K. If you had a whole word there, work, it would come right under the K, right where you were staring, and you would be asked to name that letter as quickly as possible. So am I making the method clear here? So the procedure for this experiment, what will be important is, what was the method, what was the result, and what was the meaning? Maybe the other thing I can do here is just put a hashtag under the K here. These would be two different conditions. One is a single letter condition, just the letter K, and the other one is the whole word. So they would give people a lot of these situations. And the question I have for you here is, which situation? So we might have one independent variable here. We might call that what? Condition. So we might have one independent variable here. We might call it condition. And what are the two levels here? Either you get what or what? Word or letter. So letter or word. So you have two levels. They would test people. It was a within subject design. People would get all of these things. They'd get single letters and words as well. And then they would measure the reaction time to saying a response. So that would come up, and then you'd have to say K. You'd have to say the letter, and they would record the dependent variable here was reaction time. The dependent variable here was reaction time. So the question is, in which situation do you think people would identify the letter more quickly? When the letter was presented alone, or when the letter was presented in the context of the word? How many people think you'd be quicker at identifying the letter when it was given alone? Can you raise your hands? Okay, a lot of people. How many people think you'd be better able to identify the letter when it was, or more quickly, when it was in the context of a word? Does anybody think that? The crazy thing, what did I call number 3? This is a very classic cognitive psychology phenomenon. The word superiority effect. So what do you think happened?
Getting the letter right when it was presented in the word.
The letter was responded to more quickly. You responded to the letter more quickly when it was in the context of the word than when given alone. So for me, method, result, and meaning are important things. So the method, you got the method down. The result, people were quicker, and actually I think also more accurate, at identifying the letter when it was in the context of a word than when the letter was given alone. Why is that so surprising? A lot of you raised your hand for the letter being alone. Why? Go ahead, please.
I guess it's because when it's alone, you don't have anything else to focus on.
Yeah, maybe no other distractions going on there. Is that what people are thinking? Anything else you would add to that? Go ahead.
I also was thinking, like, where it's in the context of a word, you see the word as a whole and not each individual letter.
So that would make it easier as well for a single letter. Go ahead.
I mean, I didn't think the letter would stand out more. But for the word, for me, I thought, like, because you have all the other letters, and none of them have, like, different symbols.
Yeah, that you had all these other symbols, and that would make it maybe slower and more difficult to identify the letter in the context of the word. So the reaction times, this is a much more typical cognitive psychology thing. Remember the experiment you did? What did I collect for time? What was the time that I collected? It was based on what for your class study? The time to do what? Read 15 words. Cognitive psychologists usually work much more in single stimuli situations. Reaction time, maybe 200 to 250 milliseconds for reaction time. So we give this task, it's called a naming task. It's called a naming task. And in a naming task, you're asked to basically say the stimulus as quickly as you can. So it records when the stimulus was there and how quickly you responded. So it records reaction time. Most cognitive experiments are single stimuli types of things, not 15 words, but we did the 15 words because that was the first day and what the heck. So the idea there is very consistent. So the answer to why, so you know the method, you know the result. Now we have to kind of get to the meaning of things. And the meaning of things, let's see. Oh, did I put too many L's in McClellan? I may have. Let's turn to page 486 and discover if I actually did. Does it say McClellan and Rummelhart there somewhere?
Yeah.
Where does it say
Fourth
McClellan?
line in top first paragraph.
There it is. 1L for McClellan. Thank you. So McClellan and Rummelhart basically came up with something very, very interesting. Are you guys familiar with that picture on the bottom of 486, the figure 11.14? 11.14. Have you guys seen that kind of picture before? Raise your hand if you've seen something like that before. Okay, kind of new for most people it looks like. So the idea is, when you were thinking about the single letter condition, what would be the lowest level in that model? It looks like there are three different levels of things. When you see a single letter, what do most people probably do with that letter? They break it down into what?
Line segments.
Line segments. What are they called here? That's exactly the case.
Feature layer.
Features. So if you hypothesize, and this will be important for your notes, that when you see a single letter, you break it down according to the features first, and then the features will add up into what? into a letter. That didn't work. That's not a marker.
That's not a whiteboard.
No, don't write on that.
That's a Promethean board.
The whiteboard is behind the...
Under
Behind the
the
screen.
We'll let it go. So the idea is a single letter, you break it down to the features, and that's probably why you were thinking the letter K would be quicker, because you have the features, you just add up the features to get to the letter level, and you say K. There's a name for that idea. Well, they're having a good time out there, aren't they? Sorry, they're doing a little yard work for those on the online class, but that's okay. Getting a little acoustic noise in the classroom. That was actually, I planned that. No, I didn't plan that. Okay, so the idea is, at least the sun is off the screen now. So the idea is, if it goes from feature up to the letter level, that is called bottom-up processing. Have people heard that term before? Bottom-up processing. From feature to letter. And then you say the letter K. But does it look like there's another level here? What's the third level here? The word level. So why would people respond more quickly when the letter K is given in the context of work according to this? What's probably going on?
Top-down processing.
Bingo. When you see the stimulus work, that automatically hits the word level activation and has top-down processing feeding into the letter. So the reason you get the word superiority effect, and by the way, that experiment was done by, does it say a guy named Riker here? Word superiority effect. Uh-oh, it's doing this to me. Uh-oh, because I messed something else up here. Is it the line I drew up there?
Yeah.
So what can I do about that?
Make sure the marker that you picked up is all the way back in the thing, like
yeah.
on the sensor.
The black one.
The black one.
Make sure it's the...
No, put the blue one back in the blue and then try to fix the black marker.
Oh, I got you.
No. So the black one needs to be in the black tray.
Like all the way to the left.
And there should be like an eraser in the middle one.
Eraser in the middle. I might just have to start writing out on some notes here. I can do it. Sorry, that's all very new to me. It's not critical to life or death situations here. Okay, so the idea is you get the word superiority effect in this situation because you're getting bottom up and top down level activation. Bottom up and top down level activation is going on here. And so that's why you actually find people are quicker and more accurate. Oh, Riker. That's why I was up there. R-E-I-C-H-E-R. R-E-I-C-H-E-R. He came up with the word superiority effect in 1969. And it wasn't until the early 70s, does it give a year for the McClellan and Rummel model here? I think it was in the mid-70s when they came up with their model here. Does that make sense for people? So, the word superiority effect. What's the procedure? What's the procedure in the word superiority effect?
They show you a letter or a word with like a symbol.
Yeah, they show you a letter or word. You know where to fixate beforehand. And then after they show you either a letter or word, they ask you to see how quick and accurate you can identify that letter, either in the context of a letter alone or a word. And what's the finding? People are more accurate and quicker when that letter is
In the word.
attached. It's in the word. So you get bottom up as well as top down processing. So, I show you something like this. Anybody tell me what that word is?
Apple.
The word I drew on my sheet was apple. But if you just did a bottom-up processing situation there, would it actually be enough information? Did I actually draw all my features correctly here? Does everything look perfect here in my drawing? No, usually it doesn't. Usually you don't get all the bottom-up information you need, even acoustically. And I'm speaking to you right now. If you're from a foreign country and you're listening to me speaking, am I actually talking in a really bottom-up way here? You'd probably argue no. Hello, my name is Dr. Tausman. Is that a good bottom-up way to do things? Yeah, because what am I doing in that acoustic situation?
Speaking slower.
I'm doing it slowly and I'm pronouncing each individual syllable and saying, hello, my name is Dr. Tausman. But can you figure out still what I'm saying? Yeah, because you're doing what?
Top-down process.
You're doing both bottom-up and top-down processing there. And so many times this model has been seen as being very, very important. So this is a cognitive model, the McClellan and Rumelhart model. The McClellan and Rumelhart model is a cognitive model. And what's been real interesting about this model is it's actually been extended. Do you remember what some of the big events were leading to cognitive psychology kind of taking over from behaviorism?
World War II.
World War II was one.
Computers.
Computer idea. The idea that the mind works like a computer. That this model, feature, letter, and word, kind of fed into that idea. Kind of fed into the idea of maybe this is how the brain works. And let me share with you, I think I put it next, a very interesting experiment in your book, page 191. Actually, let me stop the recording here.